You are now tuned in to your weekly Bible training series, filled with adventure, answers, and revelation, not for entertainment, but for illumination of the Spirit. Take notes and ask questions with your host, The Remnant.
Romans 8:6. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. One of the most powerful things you possess, be it in the natural or spiritual, is your mind. The enemy knows how powerful the mind is, and that's why it's always the first area he sets out to attack. He knows that if he can't get you to think a certain way, then he has total control on how things will end up in your life. Now, in today's modern times, people like to teach on things like the laws of attraction, image meditation, and a few other methods in order to pull what you desire into manifestation. I have found that it really doesn't matter what method you use, it's still going to all boil down to the same thing. Your mind is involved in the process from start to finish. See, laws of attraction tells us if we think positively, then we will draw positive energy to us. But if we think negatively, then we will attract negative energy. For example, what it's saying is if we start off in the morning and we burn the toes, for an example, then we end up stumping our toe. We starting now to believe that, oh man, we're going to have a bad day, or we may even speak that right, out of our mouth. And like clockwork, one negative thing after another seem to happen back to back. And so by the end of the day, we find ourselves sitting down saying, well, I knew today was going to be like this from the moment I woke up. But no, you empowered the day to keep going downhill because you don't quite understand how to use this powerful weapon the Lord has given you, which is your mind. See, we look at people like inventors, great scientists, mathematicians, and the such. And the first thing we do is put them on a pedestal, not realizing that your mind is at its most powerful stage when you can begin to shape the world around you. Now, this is not anything super deep, spooky, or mystical. It's as simple as believing what God said when he spoke the words, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. I'm going to say that again. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. See, everything that you see in the world today started off as a thought in someone's mind. Your mind shapes the very essence of what you will and or will not achieve. That's why it's important to not allow people to get in your spirit to the point where they begin framing their world within you. Because what will end up happening is then you will find yourself enslaved by others. I really like the way that this passage is just flat out to the point. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. So how is the mind governed by the flesh death? It's simple. Our flesh has always desired to be in control of who we truly are, and most people have allowed their flesh to rule because this is what we were trained in from birth. Our five senses, our emotions, how we feel about things, all of which are elements that are housed within our flesh. Seriously, have you ever noticed when you do something positive to help others or even to prosper yourself, it more than likely derived or was birthed out of your spirit? You find yourself saying things like, something just told me to do this, or go there and call this person or bless that person. And you feel good at the end of the day about it. But when you allow your mind to be governed by the flesh, you say things like, well, I felt like doing that, or I was just going with the flow, or I should have followed my first mind. We say that a lot. See, you know your mind is being governed by the flesh whenever you start getting puffed up about the situation. When you feel fear once you are in the situation, or when you want accolades or a pat on the back after being involved in the situation. A mind that is governed by the Spirit always looks for a way that God will be glorified beforehand, in the midst, and afterwards. A mind that is governed by the Spirit will tell you to believe God for things that others believe are impossible to achieve. It will go totally against everything that the flesh throws at it and keep right on moving. Brothers and sisters, listen to me on today. These two elements that dwell within you are going to be at constant war with one another for as long as you live. And whoever you feed the most, that's who's going to be the most powerful. But keep in mind, the flesh is like an undisciplined kid who thinks it's supposed to have everything it wants or desires at any cost. It does not know when to stop or when to use restraints. That's why if left unchecked, it will tell you things like, instead of having one scoop of ice cream, fill the bowl all the way up. Now put on some cherries and nuts, a heap of chocolate syrup. Oh, have some cookies too. You can go work it off at the gym later. Then you find yourself belly aching all night. Then the next day come for the gym and that old flesh up talking again, saying to you, you ate too much last night. You tired. Give your body some rest. You don't have to go to the gym today. Go tomorrow. And it never knows when to stop and won't stop until you, the person who is in control, decides on who is going to be subject to who. Is the spirit going to be subject to the flesh and just allow it to run amok? Or is the flesh going to be subject to the spirit and do what it is created to do, which is house the spirit and make sure the person move about throughout the land? Regardless, as long as we live on the earth in this form that we now recognize, one cannot survive without the other. It is stated that when your flesh dies, your spirit leaves your body, and vice versa. If the spirit leaves the body, your flesh dies. Now, I may make a few women mad with this analogy, but this is what the Lord dropped in my spirit. This whole matter of who will be in charge is sort of like a husband and wife living in the same house. The man represents the spirit who is put in as headship in a position by God to rule and say how things will go in the household. And the woman represents the flesh. No matter what, she wants to be the one in control and desires to rule over him. So they continually fuss and fight and nothing ever truly get accomplished. Here's the key. And then I'm going to close. Your spirit was placed in you to be the governing headship. Your spirit is a direct replica of the Creator. It's constantly rooting for you to win every trial, every battle, and overcome every temptation. It even have the power to make things line up in accordance to the will of God for your life. But it's waiting on you to give the commands. It's waiting on you to align your mind with the promises God made in His Word. In order for the pieces to start coming together, you're going to have to do this. Now, your flesh is always going to try to figure it out first, give you every negative outcome that could possibly occur, and talk you out of what God has promised you. But it's up to you to say who's in charge. Our quote of the day is, free yourself from worrying, and stress will have no place to dwell. And the chosen scripture, once again, to coincide, derives from Romans 8:6, which states, the mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the spirit is life and peace. Be blessed. This station is endorsed by Dr. Samuel A. Wilson Sr., pastor of Community Christian Fellowship Ministries of Detroit, Michigan.